Thank you for joining me here on the last segment of today's show, and we're talking some more about the 18-game regular season. Almost seems like a foregone conclusion now. Only a matter of time before this actually starts to gain some more traction. Right now, it's still talks and anticipations and projections around what it could look like, but this goes off of some reports that claim that some of the members of the NFLPA actually are already anticipating those conversations in the near future with the NFL, with Roger Goodell, about really hammering in and ironing out these details about actually going through with an 18-game regular season. And off of that, we've already seen some reactions from some players in the NFL, like Brock Purdy being indifferent about it, Nick Chubb really not being a fan of it. Ryan Kelly, the center for the Indianapolis Colts, a member of the NFLPA, or excuse me, he basically said it all sounds nice, right, when Roger Goodell was talking about it, but he really didn't seem like too big a fan of adding another game to the season already. Then you got guys like Minkah Fitzpatrick also not being too big of a fan of it. Fellow Steelers safety Deshaun Elliott really going in on the NFL for not paying them enough to play another game. So it seems like the general feeling isn't too positive right now. But one player that really wasn't too opposed to it at this point has been Cincinnati quarterback Joe Burrow. He's one of the players that hasn't been so opposed to the idea of this change. A few weeks ago, maybe a month now or so, he brought up the idea of adding a second bye week to a potential 18-game regular season. A while back ago, he mentioned it, and I talked about it briefly. And then with another bye week, it'll push the Super Bowl back another week, and then you have the illustrious Super Bowl on the weekend of President's Day. So the following day, you don't have to go to work, and it's a win for everybody, right? Everybody watching the Super Bowl, wanting to stay up late. You don't have to go to work the next day. What can be better than that? It sounds great, but the players are the ones having to really go through that and having to buy into that. Another week of just grueling work for them. It's a hard sell for the players, but as fans, I'm sure who doesn't want to see more football? So Joe Burrow touched on it a little bit more from his previous tweet that he brought up a few weeks ago. He appeared on Barstool's Pardon My Take podcast, on which he brought up the idea again, or they brought it up to him. And this time he suggested that every team in the NFL, that all teams have their normal bye week, obviously scheduled how they do currently in the NFL. Nothing different about that. But the second bye week will be around week 13, I want to say that they suggested, that Joe Burrow mentioned, and it would be around week 13. That would be everybody's bye week, so everybody would just kind of have off for that week. No football, no nothing that week, like the All-Star break, like the NBA All-Star break, like the MLB All-Star break, and things like that. Then, along those lines, obviously, if you're going to go off of the mold of them, he suggested bringing the Pro Bowl in during that week as well, and really, copy the NBA, the MLB, the MLS as well, of these American sports leagues that have a league-wide bye week pretty much halfway through the year, and they bring in their Pro Bowl there. They do all the extra games and special events and things like that. And it is an interesting suggestion. That was really the biggest point that Joe Burrow made this time around when he brought it up again. And obviously the idea is to provide more rest, a much needed rest if you're going to play 18 games. I'm sure that's going to be something that the players will want to have at this point in time. If they're going to have another game added on, it's almost a guarantee that you're going to have another bye week, but how you schedule it and where that goes will be the biggest point of it, because I don't think you can schedule 2 bye weeks and have them scattered like they already do with 1 bye week. I think that already takes enough planning and enough schedule gymnastics to actually make it work. And now if you want to add more international games and things like that and expand it even more, it's going to be even more of a nightmare to figure out travel schedules and home games versus away games, and then adding in a bye week for all these games, adding another week on top of that as well. And it gets to a point where if you want to schedule 2 scattered bye weeks, it's almost impossible, at least from what I can think of it, for anybody that makes the NFL schedule to do it that way. So it almost makes the most sense now to have 1 bye week for everybody to be off. And to include the Pro Bowl in that, I don't think is the worst idea, because the NFL has tried multiple alternatives to the Pro Bowl, or just different iterations of the Pro Bowl. Now they've included flag football to it as the final event. You still have the various skill games and events that they do as well, switching it to flag football and things like that, things of that nature. Doing all these things that they feel, the NFL really feels, I think, that they're really doing things like, they're really doing something by adding these different sort of things. But again, the reaction to it when the Pro Bowl is closer to the Super Bowl, I think it's just, it's not getting any better. And at this point, I don't think it'll hurt to try this out, to at least get some reaction, because they've already, like I mentioned, tried different alternatives to this, and it's just gotten the same reaction. It seems like nobody wants to watch it. It's almost like everyone's dreading it at this point. When the Pro Bowl's coming, if somebody mentions it to you, you're like, oh, like, all right, like, I'm not going to watch it, but that's cool, I guess. Like, no one's actually wanting to watch the Pro Bowl like people are wanting to watch the Home Run Derby. The NBA All-Star Game's getting to that point, if not already there. So the NFL has to try and do something to change that narrative. At this point, again, I don't think it'll hurt to try that out. And also, maybe having it during the actual middle of the season, during the actual regular season, right when we're getting into the thick of things, and right in the middle of the season where playoff implications are getting tighter, more high-stake games. You take a break from all of that, and you head into the Pro Bowl for for some of these players. Maybe you still have the creative juices flowing. Maybe you still have that competitive edge. Maybe these games, flag football, turns into a lot more competitive and a lot more of an entertainment thing if these players aren't off of their vacations, having to come into Hawaii or Florida, wherever the Pro Bowl is taking place. They have to take a break from what they're doing. They have to go there, participate in it, and it's like, all right, whatever, we're going to do it. Let's just get it over with. Instead, you have it during the season. It could be a pain for some people to find it annoying if they do it, but I think you at least get more emotion doing it this way. At least you get more of a competitive, actual motion coming out, rather than a group of guys that's just out there going through the motions. But that's just me. I haven't watched the Pro Bowl in a long time, so I don't see the harm in at least trying this out. I will be interested to see if they try and replace where the Pro Bowl is now, currently a week or two before the Super Bowl, I want to say. If they schedule anything there, or if they try to include another event in place of where the Pro Bowl used to be, if they have it during the actual regular season, that's something I'm interested in seeing, if the NFL adds something to that. But I'd anticipate some pushback from the players, like I mentioned before, some being annoyed of the fact that they are competing in these silly games, flag football, in the middle of trying to compete for the playoffs for some of these teams. But like I mentioned, with the season coming to a close, coming to an end, more attention, I think, will be on the revenue share and the offseason changes rather than this bye week. But I anticipate some pushback from the players. I won't really imagine that they're too happy about it. But with that being said, it is a big problem. It is a big situation the NFL should try to correct, because it seems like they're doing everything else right, expanding the game to different countries, getting more eyeballs watching it. Streaming platforms are going crazy for the NFL. They got that deal with Netflix now. It seems like they're doing everything right except this Pro Bowl situation that they just can't figure out. I don't see a problem with them trying it out. I think they should take Joe Burrow's suggestion under real consideration, because it seems like they can't come up with anything better. So that's what Joe Burrow said. I'm a fan of it. Why not try it out? If they get this right, the NFL would be in a great place right now, where everything is just going right for them, if it does turn out to be a hit. But let me know what you guys think on Joe Burrow's idea of having the Pro Bowl halfway through the year, and the idea of just having a league-wide bye week as that second bye week as well. Leave your guys' thoughts in the chat box and in the comments section after this episode. But with that being said, that'll wrap it up for this show of the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I want to thank you guys for joining me on today's show, and please remember to like, follow, and subscribe to the show, as well as following the network on all forms of social media. If you want to see more of this show, check out both YouTube channels, the Podcast Network channel and the GSMC Sports Network channel, for different forms of media around the NFL, different forms of content on both of those channels. As a final reminder, tune in every weekday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time for more discussions and conversations around the NFL with me, Manny Maradiaga, as your host. Thanking you for joining me on today's show, and I hope to see you guys back here with me again tomorrow.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to